I love Naples. I love Collier County. And over the course of my many years here, I've had the incredible experience to understand what makes us the best place in America to live. And let me tell you, it's not just our beaches. Far from it, actually. It's our people, and it's our partnerships, and none of it's happened by accident. I've seen it time and time again. The more people learn about what's happening in our community, the more they come to the realization, this is not happening where I come from. Collier is special. Collier is unique. That's why I'm bringing you Community Matters. Think of this as your Collier County 101. I'm your guide, introducing you to the people and the resources that I think that you should know through short, real conversations so that you feel more empowered and ready to engage in ways that will positively impact your life, your family, your careers, and this beautiful place that we get to call home. Because community matters. Hello and welcome to Community Matters. I'm Amanda Pearson, and today it's my honor to be with the CEO of Barron Collier Companies, Blake Gable. Welcome.
Thank you, Amanda. Glad to be here.
I'm extremely glad that you are here today. We have so many exciting topics to talk about, at least for me. They're exciting.
Okay.
But first, before I get to the questions, I do want to let people know a little bit more about you. As I just stated, you are the CEO of Barron Collier Companies, one of Southwest Florida's most influential privately held companies with deep roots in our community spanning 4 generations. Is that right? 4 generations?
115 years as landowners in Southwest Florida this year.
Incredible. Since joining the company in '99, you've held several leadership roles, now overseeing a team of over approximately 200 employees and managing more than 2.5 million square feet of commercial property and home building operations, and over 80,000 acres of private land. Before returning to Florida, you worked in Washington, D.C. as a legislative director for U.S. Representative Ed Pastor. You earned your bachelor's degree from Tulane University and later completed your executive MBA at FGCU. Go Eagles.
There you go.
Beyond your professional career, you've demonstrated a long-standing commitment to community leadership, which is why I'm just thrilled to have you here today. You're a graduate of Leadership Collier and Leadership Florida. You've held several community leadership roles, including Board of Enterprise Florida, Naples YMCA, the Immokalee Foundation, American Heart Association, United Way, and the Randy Roberts Foundation. You've also been the chair of the FGCU Board of Trustees and of the Greater Naples Chamber. Today, you continue to serve on several boards, including NCH, now Naples Comprehensive Health, the Rooney Democracy Institute at the University of Notre Dame, and CTO Realty Growth. Wow.
Yeah.
Busy man.
Should probably spend more time on my day job.
So I am thrilled to have you here today because you have always been, when I've heard you speak, you have always been one of my favorite speakers. I like how real you are. I've just always very much enjoyed hearing from you. And so I'm thrilled that others will be able to hear from you in this way today. So thank you for your time.
Of course. Happy to be here.
So starting with the Barron Collier Companies, if people aren't as familiar, or perhaps as I am, the Barron Collier family helped shape the foundation of Collier County and what we really know it to be today, which is incredible. So let's just start with first, what is Barron Collier Companies?
Well,
how did it come to be?
So Barron Collier Sr. Started buying land in 1911 down here and ultimately amassed about 1.3 million acres. And we now have what's left of that today on our side is about 80,000 acres. But really, I think the story is more interesting when you look at what was important to him and the subsequent generations that followed. I mean, you can point to direct Barron Collier family involvement in the creation of Big Cypress National Preserve, Collier Seminole State Park, 10,000 Islands, Rookery Bay, Fakahatchee, Picayune Strand, Corkscrew. So we've been involved, Florida Panther Refuge. So all of those things have Collier family fingerprints on them. And if you look at why Collier County has developed in the way that it has, which is different than other places, not saying better or worse, just different, I think it's because of the way the family has viewed stewardship, component of what we're here to do. That's great. I little that I know of Barron Collier and have learned about him over the years, he was obviously an environmental enthusiast. Mm-hmm. And in Southwest Florida, it's so often said that our environment
is our economy, right? Our people are here for our environment. So I didn't know that. I didn't know all of those things that you just said about the beginning and where the Collier family has supported. So that's fantastic to hear. So when it comes to looking back at that legacy, what do you think the company's role is in the county's now current and future development?
So, if you look at, if 80% of Collier County will be under some level of environmental protection, whether that's through conservation easements, state, federal, county-owned lands, or other types of easements. Again, 80% of this county will never be developed, okay? So of that remaining land, obviously ourselves and a few others have the majority of that. So the growth that's going to happen is going to happen in the eastern part of the county. That's where the land is. We were involved, at this point, 25 years ago, with, I think, a pretty groundbreaking land use program, the Rural Land Stewardship Program, which kind of, identified clearly lands that could be developed and lands that will never be developed. So that's a program that we were the first ones to utilize it with the town of Ave Maria. We've done several others now. A few others have come along as well. But it's just, I think it's an award-winning kind of environmental program. And to be at the forefront of that, I think, was something great for us.
So for those that might not know how that kind of program works, the Rural Lands Stewardship, and there's like rural land stewardship areas, is that right? How does that work?
Let me simplify it, okay? Because it is a very technical and cumbersome and time-consuming process to go through. But the bottom line is you get development credits for the environmental qualities of a certain piece of property. And so a property and this has all been vetted through the environmental groups and county and state and other permitting agencies. You get higher level of credits for certain properties, and then that allows you to develop others. So in its most simplistic form, to develop 4,000 acres in Ave Maria, we had to set aside 17,000 acres of land that will never be developed. That's 26 square miles, okay? So that's the impact of this program.
Wow. So much to that. So moving forward with all of the development that's happening out east, is that something that is required, or is that, okay?
Yes.
Yeah,
there
fantastic.
are some circumstances that don't require it, but for the large scale things that we do, that's the program that we operate under.
I mean, it feels like as growth is occurring, that's the most, and as critical as our environment is, that's the most responsible way of handling growth as possible. It feels that way.
Right.
What do I know?
Right. Well,
try not to insert my opinions, but it.
Well, no, I mean, there are private property rights.
Right.
And, people may not like it, but people are still going to come here. We've shown that, with the exception of a couple years in the middle of recession, we grow consistently every year. And it's not hard to see why. It's a phenomenal quality of life, and that's what people are looking for. So,
yeah, best places to. I mean, the awards that we get in Collier County are endless, and so healthiest communities, safest communities.
Yeah.
So we are blessed to live here.
Very much so.
So, as on that note, as Southwest Florida continues to grow, the residents are often debating this growth versus, conservation. Is there anything else outside of the rural land stewardship that you would say this is what smart growth looks like?
Well, I think, one of the things that I think when you have so much of the land that is going to be set aside for conservation, which I think is great. Right. And we are in the middle of, as I mentioned, all of that, or not all of it, but a considerable amount of that. I think the one thing that gets lost is the housing affordability aspect of it. Right. Less land, less opportunities. The land that is remaining is clearly going to be more expensive, and that has a direct impact, obviously, on the cost of a home. So I think, the county needs to be looking in certain areas at greatly increased densities for more apartments, more condos, things of that nature, in strategic areas. I think that density in and of itself is not a bad thing, as long as it's managed and planned appropriately. Because I think that's the only way you're going to really take a crack at reducing the price of homes for a lot of people.
So I think when people hear density, I think a lot of people go, oh no, we're going to be Miami. That won't happen.
That's not going to happen.
So
it's not a thing.
It's not a thing. So how could, I mean, I'm going off script here a little bit, but since you mentioned density, like what does that look like that would make people feel better? Because it's a good thing.
It is. I think, the county has, activity centers where in certain areas they allow for higher densities. And I think that has played out very well. If you look at, 951 in Immokalee, for example, there are a number of apartment complexes there, but there are also all the goods and services there. So people aren't getting in their cars, driving 5-10 miles to a grocery store or, a doctor's office or a bar or restaurant or a coffee shop. They're all right there. So I think that particular intersection, I think, is a real good example of it. And I'm not just saying that because we were involved in 2 of the 4 corners there, but I think that is working exactly the way it was intended to work.
That's so true what you just said about having the goods and services there. And it's slowly happening, but we're getting there and it's very exciting. And I know people often, I've now chatted, by the time this episode comes out, we'll have chatted with our county manager and Paul Hiltz from NCH. So it's exciting to hear about, well, first of all, if we can move those goods and services east, we're going to declog Immokalee Road, which everybody has, their thoughts on with Immokalee Road and how challenging it can be to go to and from eastern Collier County. But you have a hospital now coming to Ave Maria, which is exciting.
Right. We're a little ways away, but we're certainly in the discussions and planning with NCH. And I think it's one of those things where it takes a while to get the critical mass, right? But we probably have, I don't know what the number is. I'm just going to guess 15,000 people that live in Ave Maria, a couple thousand that work at Arthrex, and a couple thousand students, at Ave Maria University and faculty and staff. So there's 20,000 people out there every day. We're getting to the point where, if that's it's time to kind of enhance our medical operations out there.
There's a school out there. And just in case people don't know, when you say Arthrex, there's an Arthrex facility that I feel like most people probably don't know about if they're not heading down to Immokalee that way. There's an Arthrex facility right next to Ave Maria.
Right. It's in there's an Arthrex manufacturing facility in Ave Maria, and they have about 2,000 employees there, last I heard.
It's incredible. So you mentioned I feel like many newcomers, and to be perfectly honest, most residents, I'm confident, don't realize what you said, that Collier County is nearly 80% publicly owned or protected land in perpetuity forever. How does that reality influence, is there anything else that we haven't talked about? Does it influence housing, transportation, other economic opportunities for the community? Is there anything else where you're like, that is on your mind that we haven't talked about on what that reality looks like?
Well, yeah, I think the important part of that, Amanda, is that if you've identified, and the county and the landowners have, where future development is going to take place, it allows you to plan all of these long-range projects that go to support and enhance that growth that is inevitable and will come, right? So I can tell you there are people in our office that are on the phone with people at the county every single day. And if they're talking about transportation or solid waste or utilities or all these bigger picture kind of items, again, each of those components take years, if not decades, to kind of put the plan actually in action. So, we started working on Oil Well Road in 2005. And the middle section is still not completed, right? So what are we, 21 years later? So these things take a long time, and they're big projects that have a big impact on people. So I think, the county was smart, and I think, the group of people that put these plans in place did a really good job because, we really do look at things kind of big picture because we kind of know where things are going to happen. Development's going to happen on this piece of property and not on this other piece of property. So how do you plan accordingly for all those longer range kind of infrastructure items? And schools, hospitals, sheriff's office, all of these things, EMS, all of these things are part of that conversation.
It's an exciting job, but I can only imagine the work that goes into it. But how exciting to be able to plan for the future of what this community literally looks like. And So, well, actually, you mentioned that a project for Oil World took now 26 years. So my last question here is 25 years from now, what would you hope, with all the work that you guys are involved in, what would you hope that residents are going to be saying about your legacy personally, maybe, or the legacy of Barron Collier Companies? What did you guys would get right? What do you hope they say you got right, and how you helped to shape the future? And then second question to that, is there anything that anybody who's listening right now can be a part of that?
Well, there's no legacy for me. I just happen to occupy this role for a brief period of time, and then someone else will do it after me. And so that's the way I look at that. But, it's interesting when people talk about, what do you want your community to become? That's not our role, right? Our role is to build a foundation, and then the people who ultimately occupy those homes and those businesses, it's up for them to make the community what they want. All we can do is provide a great place, a safe place with great amenities, take care of it so it never goes into some sort of disrepair, and that the sidewalks don't have weeds and the parks are mowed, and that we're ahead of, the amenities that are required to support a growing community. So that is our role. And then what those communities become and what those, what the residents turn it into, that's up to them, right? Yeah. So, and how do people get involved? Well, I feel like everyone generally has an opinion on what we should do with our property. That never seems to go away. But look, as I said, we've been around here 115 years. We have 200 employees, and they're all active in the community in different philanthropic organizations in their kids' schools and all that. So there's access to us all the time. And our phone number has been the same for 60 years, 262-2600. If you want to call and talk to somebody about what we're doing, pick up the phone and call. We're not shying away from anything we're doing. I think we try to be as open and transparent about the things that we do, and that's not going to change.
Well, Barron Collier Companies is, first of all, you are humble. And I think I'm going to, go back to tooting your horn. I think you personally, the way that you have led all of those organizations, charities, education systems, whatnot, healthcare systems, as a volunteer, that speaks volumes about your dedication personally to the community. So can't get out of that. Thank you for that, Blake.
Okay, thank you.
And Barron Collier Companies it follows suit, and I feel like always has. So there's not a charity event that I think I've been to where Barron Collier Companies isn't engaged with, and that makes a huge impact to our community, including environmental organizations like the Everglades Foundation and whatnot. So, thank you for your personal dedication to our community and for leading an organization that's so committed to being a steward. And I always just say, as private business, I interview nonprofits and government and private business. And so thank you for your example on how private business can, and I believe should, insert themselves into community betterment, because it is important and it is leaving a legacy. So thank you for that, Blake.
Well, if something's good for Collier County, it's going to be good for us. And, it's... Again, I try to look at things very simplistically. At the end of the day, we have the reputation we have not because of what our current group of people working with us has done, but what people did for the 100 years before that. And it's our job to make sure that we leave it better than when we got it. And we got it in a pretty good spot. So
that's wonderful.
That's it.
Well, Blake, thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Amanda. Always great to see you.
Absolutely. And for those listening today, I hope you'll find a way to engage, because community matters.